A few weeks ago, I made this glowing tabletop shrine on my channel, and unfortunately the first one that I tried making, I melted it to the point where I couldn't use it. So in this video, I'm going to try to make something with that failed piece. So this first one I don't really have to do a whole lot to, besides I'll paint it up later, but I want to have 3 in this video. So I have one that was also partially complete, and then one that I'll do right now. I use a sharp knife to cut the basic shape of the shrine in the foam, and then I will trim down the edges to match to the other ones that were already made. I use a scratch-all and I scratch in some veins in the shrines. I'll fill these later with some green paint. And I actually found that a pencil worked even better. It had a lot smoother lines and didn't break the foam up as much. And they get sealed with Mod Podge and black paint. For the base, I'll be using this pre-made frame from my local craft store. And as you can see, there's this bit of a lip here, which gives some negative space in the middle that I don't want. So I fill it with a bit of chipboard, and then on top of that, I will add my foam core with the paper removed, glue that down. Then once it's dry, I can clean up the edges and give it a good sanding. And I use a coat of Mod Podge to give a first layer of protection. I picked up a couple of D&D miniatures, including a lich, a mummy, and a few ghouls. And I need to get the lich off of its little base because it's going to be floating above the diorama. And so with some heat and gentle persuasion, I eventually get the 2 pieces unstuck. In the Battle of the Heat Gun, the lich did lose his hand, but I can glue that back on. He's a lich. He'll be fine. I also use my heat gun to help shape the arms of the other miniatures into a more desirable position. And because I want these guys coming out of the dirt like they're emerging from an underground grave, I don't need their legs, so I chop those off. I then glue everyone down on some stands to get them ready for painting. Speaking of painting, they get a coat of flat black primer and then a dusting of white from the top to give some artificial light and shadow. Since I'm still very new to painting miniatures, I'll be using speed paints. I find these are really fun and easy, especially for someone who doesn't have a whole lot of experience like me. For the lich's robes, I'll be using a mix of that slaughter red and blood red, and I just put it on same as all the other paints. As you can see, I did bleed a bit into the skeletal part, so I'll be touching that up later. But first, I use a mix of those 2 colors I just showed you, and I do a dry brush over all of the ghouls and mummies. Here I'm just painting up any bone parts where the red overstepped its boundaries, and then I use that same speed paint as before to bring the details back. I also use this Scorpy green and this yellow green to add some cool glowing eye effects to the ghouls, the mummies, and the lich. The robes were a bit too dark for me, so I add some dry brushing of a brighter red to bring out some of that color again. For the shrines, I'm using a mix of gray, this modeling paste, and a bit of Mod Podge, and I will coat everything just like before. I use more of that foam core to build a few steps that will go up to the shrines, and I cut some holes out that the shrines will fit in. I also add some texture and variation with a small torch. And of course my favorite, a good Mod Podge coating. This is just the same green as before, and I'm painting in all of the veins on the shrines. I'll do the first coat of the darker green, and then I'll go in with that more yellow green and add some highlights to it to try to make it look like it's glowing. Now I should have used this blackwash weathering before adding the green, but it's okay, I'll just go in and retouch up those greens afterwards. I use some foam safe super glue to glue the shrines in place, and then I can paint the rest of the base a brown. This is just some watered down Mod Podge, and then I'll sprinkle some dirt that I stole from outside. I glue down the miniatures onto the dirt, and then I sprinkle on some extra dirt around the base of each miniature, lock it down with some isopropyl alcohol and watered down Mod Podge, and this is to make it look like they're coming out of the ground and they've moved that fresh dirt out with them. I also take this time to install my candles that I made off camera. I have a full tutorial on how I made these that you can watch here, and I'll glue those in place with some more foam safe super glue. I had a few extra rocks around the base to make it look like they were the ones that were chipped out when whoever it was stole the crystal out of these shrines, and then I will match them by doing a same black wash and gray dry brush. Then I use some dark contrast paint to darken the dirt to make it look like it's fresh dirt, and I ended up making them even darker off camera. I then go in with a green dry brush over my ghouls and mummies, and this is supposed to look like the glowing magic from the lich is being cast onto them. I add a metal rod to the bottom of the lich, and this will suspend him up in the air. This is just polyester batting, and I'm going to use this to make the smoke effect coming from the bottom of the lich. I use hot glue and I attach little pieces of the polyfill until I'm happy with the final result. I also glue in some green LEDs that I wired up, and this will give a glowing effect from the inside of the smoke. And I just continue adding that polyfill until I fill the area that I've set aside for it. Now I'm not gluing it down to the ground yet because I have to take this entire thing off to paint it, which you'll see me do right now. I protect my little miniature with some plastic, and then I'll be using some spray paint, specifically this hunter green and a bit of black, and adding color to the smoke. I can then rerun all my wires and put the rod in place. At the end of the day, I'm not super happy with how this color turned out. I wish I'd taken more time to find a green spray paint that matched the other greens I was using, or better yet, just used an airbrush, which I don't really have, but it ended up working okay in the end. I tried adding some green with this dry brush, which gave kind of a cool effect, but not exactly what I was going for. I also made some little gravestones out of foam, and I didn't end up putting them in the final product. I really wasn't sure how I felt about them, so let me know below, yes on the gravestones or no. If more people say yes, maybe I'll add them in later. The final step is to wire everything together, clean up all the wires by taping them to the bottom, and before I show you the final results, here's my newest D&D character, Legs McGee. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video. This was a fun little project and, a few things didn't go exactly how I wanted, but I will always use those as learning experiences. Again, thank you for watching. If you like this video, consider dropping a like, consider subscribing. I've got a whole bunch of other videos on my channel, and if you like this one, I'm sure you'll like at least a few others. As always, I will leave links in the description to some of the tools and materials that I use during these projects. If you would like to support me more directly, I do have a Patreon. There is no pressure to join at all, but if you do, you get some cool perks like behind the scenes photos and a shout out in every single one of my videos. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, put them down in the comments section and I'll try to get back to you. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.